Admiral James Wilson stared at the holographic displays floating above the UN Security Council table. Two alien ships hung in Earth's orbit, one sleek and silver from the Dominion, the other angular and bronze from the Alliance. Both had arrived within minutes of each other, breaking every diplomatic protocol established since first contact. "They're requesting immediate audience," said Director Cooper, her face illuminated by the blue glow of the displays. Both of them, at the same time. Wilson straightened his uniform. In his 20 years of service, he'd never seen anything like this. The Dominion and Alliance had been at war for decades, yet they'd never shown such urgency about Earth before. Usually, they treated humans like primitive cousins who had somehow stumbled onto the galactic stage. "Put them through," Wilson said. "Both channels." The air shimmered, and two figures appeared. On the left stood the Dominion ambassador, tall and graceful with silvery skin that seemed to flow like mercury. On the right, the Alliance ambassador, shorter but broader, with bronze-scaled armor that clicked when he moved. Both started speaking at once, then stopped, glaring at each other. "Please," Wilson said, raising his hand. "One at a time." The Dominion ambassador spoke first. Earth must remain neutral in the coming escalation. His voice carried an odd echo, like water in a cave. "We offer significant technological and economic benefits in exchange for your guaranteed neutrality." The Alliance makes the same request, the bronze-scaled ambassador cut in. "With better terms." Wilson shared a look with Cooper. Something wasn't right. Both sides had always dismissed Earth's military capability as primitive. Their ships were faster, their weapons more advanced. Why would they care about Earth's neutrality? "I'm curious," Wilson said, leaning forward. "Why this sudden interest in Earth's position?" The ambassadors exchanged uncomfortable looks. It was the Alliance representative who spoke first. "We have observed your recent military exercises." Wilson knew which ones they meant. Last month's rapid deployment drill, where Earth had assembled and launched a response fleet in under 72 hours. It was standard procedure for humans, but apparently not for them. "We've also noted your industrial capacity," the Dominion ambassador added. "Your primitive manufacturing methods are surprisingly efficient." Wilson remembered first contact, 15 years ago. How the aliens had laughed at human ships, built with crude assembly lines and basic materials. They'd called Earth's factories prehistoric compared to their quantum fabrication systems. They weren't laughing now. "What you call primitive," Wilson said carefully, "we call proven. Our ships might be slower, our weapons less advanced, but we can build 10 ships in the time it takes you to make one." Both ambassadors flinched. Wilson had seen enough alien body language to know fear when he saw it. "Earth has no intention of entering your conflict," Cooper said smoothly, trying to ease the tension. "We're focused on our own development." "Yes," the Dominion ambassador said quickly. "Development. We can help with that. We offer advanced drive systems, energy weapons. The Alliance offers shield technology, quantum computers." The other ambassador interrupted. Wilson held up his hand again, silencing them. "We'll need time to consider these generous offers." He kept his voice neutral, but his mind was racing. In 15 years, neither side had offered Earth any significant technology. Now they were practically throwing it at them. After the ambassadors disappeared, Cooper turned to Wilson. "They're scared of us." Wilson nodded. "Not of our technology. Not of our weapons." He stood up, walking to the window where he could see the distant shapes of Earth's orbital shipyards. "They're scared of our potential." "Should we be concerned?" Cooper asked. Wilson watched another human ship leave the shipyards, built with assembly lines and welding robots, filled with troops who trained in mud and rain rather than simulators. "No," he said finally, "but they should be." He pressed a button on his comm. "Get me military analysis. I want to know what these powers are really fighting about." As he turned back to the window, a slight smile crossed his face. "And why they're so desperate to keep us out of it." Thomas Reed sat in his dimly lit office, surrounded by holographic displays showing production data from both the Dominion and Alliance worlds. As Earth's lead military analyst, he'd spent the last week examining every piece of information they had on the two alien powers. Something wasn't adding up. "Computer, show me Dominion shipyard output for the last 5 years," he said, rubbing his tired eyes. The displays shifted, showing elegant alien ships being constructed by quantum fabricators. Now overlay Alliance production data. As the numbers appeared, Reed leaned forward. There it was again, the pattern that had been bothering him. "Tom," a voice called from the doorway. Admiral Wilson stood there, looking as tired as Reed felt. "Tell me you found something." Reed nodded, gesturing to the displays. "Look at their production rates. Both sides have incredibly advanced technology: quantum fabrication, A-driven assembly, matter replication. But their ship production is incredibly slow." Wilson moved closer, studying the numbers. "How slow?" "Their most advanced shipyard takes 3 months to build one battlecruiser." Reed pulled up another display, this one showing Earth's orbital shipyards. "We can build the same size ship in 2 weeks." "That's impossible," Wilson said. "Their technology is centuries ahead of ours." Reed smiled. "Exactly. And that's the problem." He stood up and walked to the main display. "They've become so dependent on perfect, automated construction that they've lost the ability to mass produce. Every ship they build is a masterpiece, but they can't make them fast enough to fight a real war." He pulled up images of human shipyards, huge, smoke-belching facilities that used everything from robotic assembly lines to good old-fashioned welding. "We're still using what they consider primitive methods: assembly lines, standardized parts, quick repairs with basic materials. And that scares them," Wilson said slowly, beginning to understand. "More than scares them." Reed brought up new data. "I found these buried in their diplomatic files. Both sides have been secretly watching our industrial capacity. We could outproduce both their fleets combined in less than a year." Wilson whistled softly. "No wonder they're desperate to keep us neutral." "It gets better," Reed said, showing another display. "Remember those technology packages they offered us? I analyzed them. They're carefully chosen to not help our manufacturing capability at all. Fancy weapons, yes. Better engines, sure. But nothing that would help us build ships faster. They're trying to guide our development," Wilson said. "Keep us dependent on their methods." Reed nodded. "If we accept their help, we'll eventually become just like them, building beautiful, perfect ships. That take months to produce," Wilson finished, "while losing our greatest advantage." A notification flashed on one of the screens. Reed checked it and frowned. "Sir, you need to see this. Our deep space sensors just picked up something near Pluto." The display showed 2 groups of ships, one Dominion, one Alliance, moving toward each other. "They're about to have a border incident right on our doorstep," Reed said quietly. "Want to bet it's not a coincidence." Wilson straightened his uniform. "They're testing us, seeing how we'll react." "What do we do?" Wilson smiled grimly. "We show them exactly what primitive humans are capable of." He turned to leave, then stopped. "Good work, Tom. Keep digging. I want to know what these powers are really fighting about." Reed watched him go, then turned back to his displays. Beyond the diplomatic double talk and technological promises, a pattern was emerging. Both sides were preparing for something big, something they needed massive industrial capacity for. And somehow, humanity's primitive shipyards were the key to it all. He cracked his knuckles and got back to work. The border incident near Pluto would give them some answers, but the real truth was hidden in the data. And Thomas Reed was very, very good at finding hidden truths. The alert klaxons on Earth's Pluto defense station screamed to life at 300 hours. Captain Michael Hayes rushed to the command center, where red warning lights painted the walls in an angry glow. "Report," he barked. "Sir, we've got Dominion and Alliance ships firing on each other just beyond Pluto's orbit. his sensor officer replied. Multiple ships damaged on both sides. Life support failing on at least 3 vessels. Hayes watched the tactical display as elegant alien ships exchanged sophisticated energy weapons. Their advanced technology created a beautiful light show and horrible destruction. How many people are we looking at? Sensors show approximately 200 crew members at risk, sir. Their escape pods are failing in the cold. Hayes didn't hesitate. Launch rescue ships. All of them. Sir, his executive officer stepped forward. Protocol says we should wait for authorization from Earth Command. This could be a diplomatic. There are people dying out there. Hayes cut him off. I don't care what color their skin is or what empire they serve. Launch the ships. Within 5 minutes, 10 human rescue vessels accelerated toward the battle zone. They weren't pretty, blocky shapes of welded metal and exposed hull plates, but they were tough and built for exactly this kind of work. The alien ships stopped firing as the human vessels approached. Hayes grabbed the comm system. This is Captain Hayes of Earth's Pluto Defense Station. We are launching rescue operations. All ships cease fire immediately. There was a moment of silence. Then both alien commanders responded with surprised acknowledgement. The human ships reached the damaged vessels in record time. Their crews, wearing simple thermal suits, began rescue operations immediately. They didn't have fancy teleporters or matter streams. Instead, they used cutting torches, pressure seals, and good old-fashioned muscle to get to the stranded alien crew members. Sir, the comm officer called out, we're getting signals from both Dominion and Alliance observation ships. They're watching us. Hayes nodded. He'd expected that. This whole incident was probably staged to test Earth's response. Well, they'd get a show. On the tactical display, he watched his rescue teams work. They were using basic tools and simple methods, but they were fast. Incredibly fast. Where alien rescue protocols would have taken hours to safely extract crew members, the humans were doing it in minutes. Incoming transmission from Rescue Team 3, the comm officer reported. They've had to modify their airlocks on the spot to match alien hull configurations. Hayes smiled. Human ingenuity at its finest. Their primitive tools could be adapted quickly, unlike the aliens' specialized equipment. Within 2 hours, all stranded crew members were rescued. The human ships had their medical bays full of both Dominion and Alliance personnel, being treated side by side with basic but effective human medicine. Message from the observation ships, sir, the comm officer said. They're thanking us. And they seemed surprised. Surprised that we helped? Hayes asked. No, sir. Surprised at how quickly we did it. They're requesting data on our rescue protocols. Hayes looked at the tactical display again. The human rescue ships looked crude next to the elegant alien vessels, but they had done what those advanced ships couldn't: adapt quickly to an emergency situation. Send them our basic safety procedures, Hayes ordered. Nothing classified, just the standard rescue protocols. Let them see how humans operated. Let them understand that sometimes simple was better than sophisticated. As the rescue ships returned to base, Hayes sent a message to Earth Command, knowing it would reach Admiral Wilson. Incident resolved. All crews saved. Observers present as expected. Message delivered. The message wasn't about their rescue capability. It was about what the aliens had just witnessed. Humanity's ability to respond quickly, adapt instantly, and get results with basic technology and determination. As Hayes watched the observer ships depart, he wondered if they finally understood what they were dealing with. Earth wasn't just some primitive planet anymore. It was becoming something far more important and far more dangerous. A place where getting the job done mattered more than how elegant the solution looked. The UN Security Council chamber was silent as Admiral Wilson studied the 2 data crystals sitting on the table before him. 1 silver from the Dominion, 1 bronze from the Alliance, both containing technology offers that would have seemed like magic just a few years ago. They're offering us everything, Director Cooper said, breaking the silence. advanced AI systems, faster than light drives, energy shields, even their quantum communication networks. Almost everything, Thomas Reed corrected, stepping forward from his corner of the room. The analyst looked like he hadn't slept in days. That's what bothers me. Wilson nodded for him to continue. Reed activated a holographic display showing complex technical diagrams. I've analyzed both offers. They're practically identical in what they exclude. No manufacturing technology, no industrial replication systems, no automated construction methods. They're protecting their advantages, General Martinez said from his seat at the table. Reed shook his head. No, sir. They're protecting themselves from our advantage. He brought up new images showing Earth's shipyards. Everything they're offering us would make our ships faster, stronger, and more powerful. But we'd have to rebuild our entire industrial base to use their methods. And that would slow us down, Wilson finished, understanding dawning on his face. We'd lose our production speed. Exactly. Reed highlighted sections of the technical data. Their quantum fabrication systems can make perfect ships, but they can't be rushed. Their AI-driven assembly requires precise conditions that take weeks to set up. If we accept either offer, we'd end up building ships their way. The slow way, Cooper said. Wilson stood and walked to the window overlooking the Washington shipyards. Below he could see crews working on 3 new destroyers. The ships weren't beautiful, but they were strong, simple to repair, and could be built in days instead of months. There's more, Reed said quietly. Both sides are offering us technology that's slightly different from what they actually use. Just enough variance that we couldn't easily copy or improve on their systems. Martinez leaned forward. They're trying to make us dependent on them, while preventing us from becoming a true rival, Wilson added, still watching the shipyard workers. He turned back to the room. What are they so afraid of? Why go to all this trouble? Reed brought up a new display showing military movements near the edge of known space. I think I found out. Both sides are building up forces far beyond what their current war would require. They're preparing for something bigger. And they need industrial capacity they don't have, Cooper said. But we do, Wilson finished. The room fell silent again as the implications sank in. Earth's primitive industrial base could outproduce both advanced civilizations combined. In a major conflict that could be decisive, a soft chime interrupted their thoughts. Both data crystals were pulsing, indicating the ambassadors were requesting responses to their offers. So, Martinez said, what do we tell them? Wilson picked up both crystals, weighing them in his hands. We tell them we need time to consider their generous offers. Meanwhile, he turned to Reed. I want to know what's out there that has 2 advanced civilizations so scared they're trying to bribe us into neutrality. Reed nodded and hurried out, already pulling up more data on his tablet. And the technology? Cooper asked. Wilson placed the crystals back on the table. We keep building ships our way. Simple, efficient, fast. He smiled slightly. Let them think we're still primitive. It's worked in our favor so far. As if to emphasize his point, a deep rumble shook the building as another ship launched from the yards below. Not elegant, not advanced, but ready for service in just 10 days. Sometimes, Wilson thought, watching the ship rise into the sky, the old ways were the best ways. The orbital viewing station was packed with alien observers. Dominion officials in their flowing silver robes stood uncomfortably next to Alliance representatives in their bronze armor. All of them watched Earth's shipyards through the station's massive windows. Admiral Wilson stood at the front of the room, checking his watch. Shall we begin? Begin what, exactly? The Dominion ambassador asked. Your message mentioned a humanitarian aid exercise. Wilson smiled. Yes, we're demonstrating our emergency response capabilities. He pressed a button on his command, you may start. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, lights began switching on across Earth's orbital shipyards. Within minutes, the entire complex blazed with activity. What you're about to witness, Wilson explained, is how Earth responds to a crisis situation. In this scenario, we're simulating the need to construct an emergency relief fleet. The aliens watched as massive pieces of hull plating moved on robotic assembly lines. Welding torches flared in the darkness of space. Work crews in simple spacesuits swarmed over half-finished ships, like ants building a colony. Impossible, the Alliance ambassador muttered as the first ship's skeleton took shape. You can't rush construction like this. The quantum alignments alone would take days. We don't use quantum alignment, Wilson said calmly. Just good old-fashioned steel, composites, and human ingenuity. Thomas Reed stepped forward with a datapad. The ships we're building are our standard relief vessel design. Not pretty, but they work. Standardized parts, modular components, and parallel assembly lines. The aliens watched in stunned silence as 3 ships began taking shape simultaneously. Their construction wasn't elegant. No glowing quantum fields or humming matter replicators. Just hard work, proven methods, and relentless efficiency. Now for Phase 2, Wilson announced. He nodded to Reed, who sent a signal to the yards. A damaged Alliance cruiser, salvaged from the Pluto incident, was towed into view. Its beautiful bronze hull was scarred and torn, its quantum-perfect construction lying in ruins. Your ships are wonderful pieces of engineering, Wilson said, but they're almost impossible to repair quickly. Watch this. Human work crews swarmed the damaged cruiser. Instead of trying to match its exotic materials and perfect construction, they simply cut away the damaged sections and replaced them with Earth-made components. It wasn't pretty. Patches of dull metal stood out against the bronze hull, but it was fast. This is barbaric. The Dominion ambassador protested. You're destroying the ship's aesthetic perfection. No, Wilson corrected. We're making it functional again. In combat, function beats form every time. The aliens fell silent as they watched the cruiser's repairs progress faster than their own shipyards could manage. Meanwhile, the 3 new Earth ships were nearly complete. Final phase, Wilson announced. The completed ships began powering up. Their engines weren't the elegant quantum drives of alien vessels, but they worked. Their weapons weren't energy beams that could slice through reality, but they could fight. Their hulls weren't perfect, but they were strong. Time, Wilson asked. Reed checked his pad. 26 hours from start to finish, sir. 3 new ships built and 1 alien vessel repaired. The silence in the viewing station was deafening. Both ambassadors stared at the results with barely concealed horror. They had just watched humans do in a day what would take their advanced civilizations months to accomplish. This was just a demonstration, Wilson said quietly. A small one. Would you like to know our full production capacity? Neither ambassador spoke. They didn't need to. The message was clear. Earth wasn't just some primitive backwater. It was an industrial powerhouse that could outproduce both their civilizations combined. As the ambassadors hurried away to report to their governments, Wilson turned to Reed. Think they got the message? Reed watched the aliens' retreating forms. Oh yes, sir. They definitely got it. And somewhere out in space, whatever force had these advanced civilizations so scared was about to learn that humanity wasn't as primitive as everyone thought. The UN Security Council chamber had never seen visitors like these before. The Supreme Commander of the Dominion Fleet stood nearly 8 feet tall, his liquid metal skin rippling with barely contained emotion. Beside him, the Alliance Grand Admiral's bronze scales clicked nervously as she adjusted her ceremonial armor. These weren't mere ambassadors. These were the highest military leaders of both galactic powers. Admiral Wilson sat across from them, flanked by Thomas Reed and Director Cooper. The room was tense with unspoken urgency. "You've forced our hand," the Dominion commander said, his voice echoing strangely. "After your demonstration, we have no choice but to show you the truth." He placed a small device on the table. It projected a massive 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. At first, everything looked normal, until Reed noticed something at the edges. "What are those dark areas?" he asked, pointing to regions where stars seemed to be missing. The Alliance admiral touched the map, zooming in on the dark zones. They're gone. Consumed. We call them the Devourers. They don't build ships or colonize worlds. They consume them, breaking down entire solar systems into raw materials. Wilson leaned forward. How many systems have they taken? 300 in the last year alone. The Dominion commander replied grimly. Our quantum ships are powerful, but they take too long to build. We can't replace our losses fast enough. The same is true for us, the Alliance admiral added. We've been fighting each other for so long, we didn't see the real threat until it was too late. Our production methods are too slow, too perfect, too inflexible. Reed finished. The aliens nodded. Wilson stood and walked to the map. This is why you're so interested in our industrial capacity. You don't just want us to stay neutral. You want our help. Need your help, the Dominion commander corrected. You're primitive. Your efficient methods could build ships faster than the Devourers can destroy them. But if you join either side, the other would be forced to strike first, Cooper said, understanding dawning on her face. Before we could shift the balance of power. The Alliance admiral's scales rattled in agreement. We cannot risk Earth's industrial might falling into our enemy's hands. Yet we cannot stop the Devourers without it. So here we are. The Dominion commander spread his metallic hands. Begging for your neutrality, not out of fear of your weapons, but because we need you to be something else. Something more. Wilson exchanged looks with his colleagues. Humanity had spent years thinking they were being underestimated, looked down upon as primitives. But these advanced aliens had been watching, waiting, hoping Earth would become exactly what they needed, an industrial powerhouse that could outproduce the coming storm. Show us the projected invasion route, Wilson ordered. The map shifted, showing the Devourers' path of destruction. At the current rate, they would reach Earth's sector in less than 5 years. Reed was already running calculations on his tablet. Sir, if we converted even half of Earth's industrial capacity to shipbuilding, we could match their production rate, Wilson finished. Maybe even exceed it. The alien leaders waited silently as the humans processed the situation. Humanity had wanted recognition as equals in the galactic community. Now they were being asked to be something far more important, its saviors. Wilson looked at the map again, at the swath of darkness consuming entire solar systems. Then he smiled, a plan already forming in his mind. Tell me, he asked the alien commanders, have these Devourers ever faced an enemy that could outproduce them? Their silence was answer enough. Then perhaps, Wilson said, his smile growing, it's time they learned why you should never underestimate human industrial capacity. The fate of the galaxy would depend not on advanced technology or perfect quantum ships, but on humanity's ability to build things fast, fix them faster, and never, ever give up. The Great Hall of the United Nations was packed with representatives from 300 worlds. Dominion officials in their flowing silver robes sat next to Alliance leaders in bronze armor. At the center of the stage stood Admiral Wilson, looking calm despite the weight of the moment. Earth has considered both your requests for neutrality, he began, his voice carrying across the silent hall. And we have reached our decision. Thomas Reed stood at the back of the stage, watching the alien representatives lean forward in anticipation. Behind them, on massive screens, billions of beings across the galaxy watched the broadcast. Humanity will remain neutral in your conflict, Wilson announced. The aliens began to relax, until he continued. But we have conditions. The hall erupted in murmurs as Wilson activated a holographic display showing the galaxy map, complete with the advancing darkness of the Devourers. First condition. Both the Dominion and Alliance will immediately cease hostilities and enter peace negotiations. Earth will serve as neutral mediator. The alien leaders shifted uncomfortably, but didn't object. They had expected this. Second condition. Both powers will share their advanced technology with Earth, not their limited offers, but their real advances. In return, we will share our industrial methods with both sides equally. This caused more murmurs, but again, no objections. The threat of the devourers had made the previously unthinkable suddenly acceptable. Final condition. Wilson paused, making eye contact with both the Dominion commander and Alliance admiral. Earth will lead the combined defense effort against the devourers. The hall exploded in shock. Director Cooper, standing near Wilson, watched the aliens' reactions carefully. This was the gamble. Would their pride allow them to accept human leadership? The Dominion commander stood first. You would risk everything to fight them. Why? Wilson smiled. Because that's what humans do. We adapt. We build. We fight impossible odds. And we win. He gestured to the darkness on the map. Your quantum ships are powerful, but they take too long to build. Our ships might be simpler, but we can make 100 for every one you lose. And you think quantity will defeat them? The Alliance admiral asked. No, Wilson replied. I think humanity's greatest strength will defeat them. Our ability to learn, adapt, and improve. We'll take your advanced technology and combine it with our production methods. Imagine ships with your quantum weapons, built at our speed. Reed stepped forward, displaying new technical diagrams. We've already designed hybrid shipyards. Combining your precision with our speed, we can build advanced warships in days instead of months. The devourers won't know what hit them. The hall fell silent as the implications sank in. Earth wasn't just offering to help, they were offering a real chance at victory. The Dominion commander and Alliance admiral looked at each other, centuries of conflict weighing against the darkness approaching their borders. Finally, they both nodded. Earth's conditions are accepted, they said in unison. As the hall erupted in cheers, Wilson turned to Cooper and Reed. Send the signal. Around Earth, hidden shipyards began powering up. The aliens' jaws dropped as they watched the screens showing hundreds of partially completed warships emerging from concealed construction base. You've been preparing, the Dominion commander said, both impressed and slightly afraid. Since the moment we learned about the devourers, Wilson confirmed. Humanity has a saying, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. As the aliens filed out to begin the peace process, Reed approached Wilson. Sir, should we tell them about the other shipyards? The ones on Mars and Venus. Wilson watched the galaxy map, where the darkness of the devourers crept ever closer. Not yet. Let's keep a few surprises in reserve. Something tells me we're going to need them. Humanity had emerged as the galaxy's great hope, not through advanced technology, but through determination, efficiency, and the simple human drive to never give up, no matter the odds. The real war was about to begin.